Alrighty. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy, Jimmy, back at you with another episode of Combat and Cryptids. So, obviously, last week I didn't do a show last week, but that's because I was in Illinois and I was traveling all last week, so I couldn't really, this whole setup. I could probably get all this stuff in like a suitcase or something like that, but it's just too much of a hassle, and the hotel internet's not really that the greatest stuff. So, and that's the reason why we didn't get one last week. So I was there. God, that dog is pissing me off. But so that's the reason why I did not do one last week. Can you guys keep him down? So can you put him in the cage, maybe? Like, jeez, come on. Like I'm just all I ask for is like 45 minutes of just peace and quiet. But living in this household, it's like can't really do that. It's quite hard, especially with that fucking dog. It's always just like barks at everything, but doesn't want to do anything. Anyways, I digress. So yeah, glad to be here, guys. So we'll just go ahead and kick this. So this episode, what we're going to talk about is basically, I've done a lot of the cryptid side of these last few episodes. I would say like 80% of them have all just been the cryptid side. So I think for this one, I kind of just want to go back because you guys don't really know much about me, and besides what I've said on this show, really not much. So basically, what I wanted to talk about this time is basically in 2010 to 2011 was a combat deployment to March, Afghanistan, and I kind of just want to like tell you guys my perspective. By I'm not really like. It's just gonna be from my perspective. So all the bullshit and everything you did, like how it started out and all that stuff. Not go into any of like the crazy shit that like went on and stuff like that, but just kind of like the BS side of it. And then we'll hit the little, the events that happened that were pretty shitty and stuff like that. But for the majority of them, try and keep it light, just something easy and stuff like that, just so you guys kind of get an understanding of, um, basically who I am and like what I came from or what I was before this whole, 9 to 5 job in it and living a normal life. Well, I guess you want to call it a normal life, but yeah. So that's what this episode's going to be about. So basically, how it all started out is we were originally with a so this is in Japan, which in Japan is called Combat Assault Battalion, or what we just called it CAB is what it was, and basically it was at Camp Schwab in Japan. And I say Japan, it wasn't on mainland Japan like where Tokyo Drift and stuff happened. It was like the ghetto part of Japan, and that's where I was stationed at the first for my first duty station. And from there, you basically have four platoons and four platoons of engineers. You have one that's always like in rotation to be in the rear. You have two that are deployed, so one to Iraq and one to Afghanistan, and then you have one that is basically a MU platoon. And a MU platoon is like Marine Expeditionary Unit. It's basically where you go on a fucking boat and you go to all these different countries. And from Japan, it's easier to get to all these places, whether it is doing a like a East Coast Mew or like a California Mew and stuff like that. So it's a lot easier to get to these places. It takes less time, I guess. But so basically, I was on one of those Mews, and basically from there, it was just bad. Like those Mews were bad, because you weren't getting anything out of it. You didn't feel like you were doing anything. You were basically just spending money on bullshit. So it was just really, it just wasn't something that you really wanted to do. But a combat deployment was always like what you wanted to do. Like that was like your staple to everything. Because you could go on 10, 15 views. It's not going to make a difference unless you actually did something or got anything out of it. Like that was, I guess, substantial. It wasn't really none of it was ever fun. So it was really something that if you had the chance or the opportunity, and a lot of people didn't want to, we called them basically everybody in the Marine Corps. If you didn't want to go on a deployment, like a deployment that mattered, I guess, is we just called them deployment dodgers. So it was basically people who signed up to join the Marine Corps or do whatever it is they wanted to do and basically not do anything, which is fine. I mean, that's cool. I mean, you're going to have people like that, and that's the way some people are, which is fine. But that was not what I wanted to do. It was basically like you get to this duty station and basically you're tagged with the MEU platoon, which is the worst thing you could ever do because now you're just going to deploy to these dumbass countries and not do anything. And then basically after 3 years, you're just going to go back to the States and not have shit. Or basically nothing to talk about or no stories and stuff like that. So the first opportunity, I think we were just done with our second. We were done with our second MEU, basically, and then from there was when when the Marine Corps was doing like a huge push into Marja. It was like the whole saying and everything was just starting off. So it was kind of like it was around that time frame. So basically, the platoon sergeant basically comes up to you, and it's at the end of that, and everybody's going for rotation or doing what they're supposed to do. They basically said, "Hey, there's not enough people on this Afghan deployment. Do we have any volunteers?" And of course, 80% of the platoon doesn't want to do it because most of them are within, I would say, a year and a half from getting out. So if you would have went on this deployment, which is 7 months, not including the build up, you're basically getting back and then you're EAS and that's it. And EAS is basically you're just getting out of the Marine Corps. So a lot of people didn't want to do it because then you would have to extend, and there's a lot more paperwork and stuff that you have to do and everything like that. Well, me and a couple of my other buddies, like we had a couple guys. It was this dude named Butts and this guy named Sug, and it was a couple of the squad leaders and stuff. Obviously, the squad leaders and stuff, they're all sergeants and stuff, and they really, they're going on their second enlistment. But we had a couple of corporals who were basically have to extend to go on this deployment to be able to finish it out and everything and have enough time to EAS and get out of the Marine Corps and stuff. So basically, the platoon sergeant asked, he's like, "Hey, does anybody want to volunteer for Afghanistan?" Because they were hurting for people at this time. I mean, it was just not, it was night and day the difference between how the Iraq War, because when I joined the Marine Corps, the Iraq War was starting to draw down, and basically I think there was one platoon that was coming back from Iraq the moment that I got there, and that was the last Iraq platoon that was leaving. So everything else from there on was either Afghanistan or MEUs, or you were just on rotation and you were just waiting for your turn. So basically from there, he asked, you get 6 volunteers. I think it was 6 from the guys that I knew. So you had me, you had Ferguson, you had Now, you had Sug, you had Butts, and maybe there was other couple. I don't know. Those are the people that I remember because those are the people who had the most impact on me. They're the guys that I knew. We had other people come from other camps like Camp Kinzer, whatever the fuck it was called, or Camp Hansen, and basically they were short on engineers of our grade, I guess you could say, because engineers as our particular engineer unit was basically you had combat engineers, which is basically what we did, which was nothing but demolitions, explosives, and we would just attach with grunt units, and that was our forte. Or finding bombs. That was another thing we did. We didn't know that's what we did, but it was part of it, I guess. I mean, the early engineers was like finding landmines and stuff like that, but obviously this is 2010, 2011. There's not many landmines there to find out. So basically from there, everybody gets tagged, and basically we have like 2 weeks or something like that. 2 weeks of a build up. Usually you get a couple months. Most times you get a couple months. But obviously they were just trying to turn everybody around and be like, hey, all right, the next unit goes, because they needed the support, which is cool. And basically from there, I think we flew to CAX, which CAX is in California, and it's basically just this big training unit, and that's when we would first meet up with 2-9, and that was the first time we'd ever get to meet these guys. Basically, the guys were going to deploy for the next 7 months. We would meet them for the first time, and most units had already been tagged with these guys for 5 or 6 months. Like, everyone knew. But the last platoon of engineers, we were like, hey, we just attached with them during that training exercise. It was a month long. And then from there, we would go back to Japan. We would pack all our shit and get everything ready. And then we would come back stateside, which they're originally from Jacksonville, North Carolina. That's where the unit's out of. and from there we would basically take our leave before we deployed to Afghanistan and stuff. So, I mean, obviously we get with our platoon, we get with our squads. Everybody's jiving, everybody's trying to figure each other out and stuff. Because I mean, at this point in time, you got some guys who are basically like 19, and some guys who are about to turn 21. Then you got other guys who are 24, 23. So I mean, it's a vast array, but everyone's still young. I mean, in today's society, that's still fairly young. And you have a guy who's in charge of everything, and he's probably 26 at the oldest. You got a platoon sergeant that is, I think, Gunny Lee. I forget how old he was. I know Sergeant White was probably the oldest one out of all of us, but that dude had been through some shit. He had done a lot of stuff, and basically he was kind of the embodiment of an engineer that you thought you wanted to be. Like, this is who you, like, if you wanted to emulate somebody, you wanted to be like somebody, this is the guy you want to be like. Like, he was very, I mean, I guess I say he was a dickhead, but in a sense, he was a dickhead in his own way, because the dude had already been through hell and back, and he had proven all of this stuff. So, but basically, everybody starts to figure each other out. Everybody gets put in their squad. So I guess, so my squad leader at the time is Sergeant Bouvier, and then we have two team leaders. So the team leader at the time was Sug, and the other one at that point in time I think was Nal, because he was just the most senior at that time. We had another guy named Galvan. We had two Galvans. One was in another squad, but we had Galvan, who was from Camp Kinzer, and he was more senior, but he had not done much up to this point, I guess. And then from there, we're just basically like everybody's just hanging out. Everybody's just getting to know each other. Like, we don't have much time to like, the much time the deployment started is as much time as we had to deal with each other and to deal with attaching to a grunt unit of actually like, hey, you're going to Afghanistan and this is what it's going to be. So we basically did that in a month and a half time frame, where most times you hope to get like 5-6 months out of that. So then you can really build that cohesion and stuff, and you can find out who guys are really. I mean, because if you're going over there to basically patrol and do all this crazy ass shit, you want to make sure that the dude that's with you has got your bag just as much as you got his. So that was your time frame to figure all that stuff out. We didn't have that shit. So basically from there we all go, we pack everything up, and packing is always the fucking worst. Man, I don't know if the Army or the Navy or anybody else does shit like this, but the Marine Corps, fucking, I don't know how the Marine Corps lasted this long with all the shit that they did and everything that's going on and stuff like that. Like, they always just did things so weird. So if somebody said, and tell me this makes sense. I don't know if it will make sense, but tell me if it makes sense. If I told you to be at work at 6 a.m., right? I'm the president. Okay, just keep it at that. I'm the president of Jimmy's Anchor and Block. And basically, I tell you at 6 o'clock we're all starting. And then the senior leadership below me would tell their guys, hey, we need to be there at 6. That means I want you guys outside at 5. And then the squad leaders would be like, hey, I want you guys out at 4 because they said we need to be there at 5. And then your team leaders would be like, hey, I want you guys there at 3 to make sure everybody shows up. So basically, you're showing up at 3 a.m. And this was anything in the Marine Corps. This was not just, this wasn't deployment. This was everything you did in the Marine Corps was always 3 hours, 4 hours ahead of what the hell the operation or anything you had to do was always way ahead of time. Because everybody always likes to be prepared and shit. And I get it and I understand. And I understand that now, being out of the Marine Corps now for as long as I am, which I got out in I think 2014, 2015. But being out that long, you kind of understand, because then you see people in normal work ethic, work lives and stuff like that. You see people's normality for work, and it fucking sucks. People are fucking lazy. Like, I'm getting off track. Anyway, so that's how the Marine Corps operated. You always showed up way fucking earlier than what you wanted to, and it was always miserable. So you take this, so you go to SIF and supply, which basically give you all your gear for deployment. You got what's called frog suits. You got all these fucking pants and camo and all these bags and everything. And you basically have to pack it into a suitcase that's all fucking brown. And you pack all this shit in there. And then you get it perfect. It's like fucking, like, you're like, yes, this bag is perfect. I'm not going to fuck with it. If you undo one zipper, the whole thing's going to fucking explode. And then you have to take everything out of that bag after you perfectly did it. Because everybody wants to check and make sure. Because the only shitty part about it is It's not like, you're going down the road to go do this or do that. This is, you're going to a whole nother fucking country. So if you forgot something, it was very hard to get it. I mean, you had like, they could get you like shaving cream, razors and stuff like that, but like clothes and stuff, like you're basically the hardest, and probably the hardest thing about the deployment is you're basically, what you bring is what you got, and that's it. And I'll tell you how you got other stuff. And there was ways to get shit. It's all about, it's not what you knew, it's who you knew, and stuff like that. But basically, if you brought like 14 shirts or 14 underwear and 14 socks and 14 sets of camis or 14 sets of frog gear, basically that was what you wore for 7 months. And there wasn't like, you didn't have the fucking coin laundry down the road where you could put all your shit in. It was basically, you hung that shit out. You fucking, back in the day, fucking doing, cleaning that shit. Like, man, I praise my grandma, my parents, shit. Like, Jesus Christ, there's no way I could do that for that long, for years on end. Um, so I mean, that's how leadership wanted. They wanted to make sure you brought everything. They wanted to make sure you had everything in order. You brought enough. You brought all the stuff you needed. You basically brought extra pairs of boots because you're going from like the summer to fall to winter. Like, you're hitting basically all of the elements at that time. So they want to make sure you got everything, which is fine and cool. But you had to do it so many times, and you get pretty good at it. I mean, sometimes like the first time it took you probably about an hour to set everything back up and put it back in place, and you got to lay it on the blanket and put it in, like, everybody's got to look the same, uniformity, and everybody's got name tags on everything. Everything's got to be fucking marked because people steal shit. Well, let me phrase that. No one steals shit. One person stole something. Everybody else is just trying to get their shit back. Remember that. That's life lessons right there. But basically, after all that, after everything's said and done, everything's tagged up, everybody packs everything up, basically put in these big containers, and everything gets flown over in AC-130s to the Carolinas. So basically, from Japan to the Carolinas, you have everything, and then you go there, and you have the barracks and everything like that, and you have these barracks, and they're basically, I mean, they're just empty ass barracks. They're just deployment barracks. So basically, they just have beds, they have linen, they have all this other stuff. But basically, you're just bringing all your shit in there, and that's where you're gonna spend for the next maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that. And basically, from there, everybody has, they have meetings to prepare you. There's PowerPoint presentations to say, this is what the area is gonna look like. This is what the heat's gonna look like. You have all these setup presentations and everything. I mean, I don't give a shit how many fucking presentations you has. Nothing prepares you for going to another country like that. Like, it's just not. I don't give a shit what you do. How many presentations you put together. How many times you talk about it. Whatever you do. And it doesn't prepare you for those kind of things. Until you're actually there and you see that shit and you feel the fucking heat on your skin. That's when you know that the shit is like, this is different. The smell of the sand, the air. It's all just, everything is different. There's cars, the vehicles, the styles, the way people walk, the way people act, the way people. It's just completely different from the way you grew up. So it's just something you're not used to. So first off, so we get to North Carolina. We have our leave and everything like that. I think it's like 2 weeks or something like that. And everybody, they go and see their families and everything like that. And you basically do everything. You try and set up everything, your power of attorney, your will, and everything like that. Because at that age, there's a chance. There's always a chance that you get fucking killed. And you want to make sure you have your finances and everything set up in order, whether you're married or you have kids and everything like that. So you always want to have all those things set up. So that was what that time frame was for. Was basically make sure you had all your shit in order. Um, so basically from there, you have leave. Everybody's happy. Everybody's doing all this stuff, and you're all excited. And you always, on your first deployment, you always got to shave your head. If you're a boot, you shave your head. If this is your second, combat deployment, not fucking MEU and stuff like that. So basically, if you're not, if you haven't been on a combat deployment, you shave your head, and that was just tradition. Was there a reason? No, everybody could have had long hair. It wouldn't fucking made a difference, but that was tradition, so that's what everybody did. So of course, the night before, everybody shaves their heads and all that stuff, and you know who all the boots are, and this is their first combat deployment, and everything. So you do all that stuff. You say your goodbyes to your family and stuff, and it's always butt crack of dawn. It's fucking 2 o'clock in the morning or something. I don't know if like everybody just likes flying at that time or doing stuff like that, but whatever it is. So we basically, everybody says bye. We go to the airport, like the regular airport, like international airport, and you're walking through with all these fucking They use Pelican cases with M4s and 240s and all that shit. And you put them on the plane and everything like that. And then I forget where we fly into. I think it's Kyrgyzstan. Yeah, I think that's what it is. I don't know, it's like some Air Force base or some shit like that. And it was basically your first stopping point before you got to Afghanistan. And basically from there, you basically get into Kyrgyzstan. You go into like these big fucking, they look like barrels, but they're like halfway buried in the ground. They got all these tents and everything in it. And basically, you're supposed to be there for a couple days. And that's just your midway point before you get to Afghanistan. And there's everybody there. You know, you got people coming from Afghanistan. That's their midpoint before they go home. And you always have people coming in that are going to Afghanistan. And it's Army, it's Marine Corps, it's Navy, it's everybody. Anybody who had any hand inside of Afghanistan at this point is all. This is your midway point, whether you're going or coming. It doesn't matter. And you see all these guys and everybody. I mean, you can tell, like, you're coming from deployment. You can tell the difference because the camis aren't as clean, your hair isn't as nice, and you just don't look the greatest. You know what I mean? And you never understand those things because you're like, oh my god, what's wrong with these guys? Like, but until you live that life for 7 months, and then you see what it's like, and then you come back, and you're the one coming from that point, going back home. You're like, wow, what the fuck? Like, look at these fucking fresh guys in here just trying to live their best life and stuff like that. So basically from Kyrgyzstan, which Kyrgyzstan's like the best spot because that's when you saw that place, and we had to do one more obviously inventory thing where you dump everything fucking out again, and everybody's always making sure they're with somebody. You don't want to get snatched up and all this other whatever. I mean, I get why the Marine Corps does it, because they just want to make sure everybody's okay and stuff. But from there, you basically put all your bags on this, basically a C-130, and then you go from there, and I forget, fuck, I don't even know the name of the camp. Camp Leatherneck? Does that sound familiar? Camp Leatherneck sounds familiar. It's Camp Cupcake. That's what we called it. Because they had fucking everything. They would do PFTs. They would do shit like it was just like back in the U.S. They had, they had the big ass chow halls. They had a PX. They had running water. They had showers. And you took all that shit for granted because you were like, oh man, fuck these pogues. And pogues, so just so we're clear, a pogue is a person other than a grunt. So basically, if you're not a grunt, you're not living that life. You're living that pogue life, which was the saying all throughout the Marine Corps. But the engineers, we were different because we spelled pogues. They spelled it P-O-G. We spelled it P-O-G-U-E. So pogues are people other than grunts unless engineers. Patent that shit. You know what I mean? And then basically from there, we would so we were on Camp Leatherneck, which is basically where everyone meets, all in Marine Corps at this point. You meet up where everybody's going to split. So there's battalions there. You got 2-9, you got 2-7, 2-5, all these different battalions. Because usually they try and keep like 2nd battalion. Or 2nd, I don't know how the fuck does it go. 2-9 is 2nd Marine Division, I think is what it is. So 2nd Marine Division would always, most of those guys would deploy. And then 3rd Marine Division. And then 1st. When it was just, so everybody you saw there was either 2 something, 2 like that. And then basically from there, everybody would go and they would get the captains and everybody who was in charge of their companies, Echo, Fox, and Golf. They would all get where their area operation is going to be inside of Marja. And they would get an overview of the map. They would show them where all their PBs, their suicide posts, wherever their patrol bases, everything was going to be at. And basically from there, you would go to Camp Hansen. I think it's Camp Hansen. No, it's not fucking Camp Hansen. I forget the name. So after Leatherneck, we went to another fob, which was another big one. But that was more closer to where the bullshit was. But it was still a big base and stuff like that. They had your water dogs out there trying to clean water, have running water and all that stuff. So it was pretty big. Not as nice, it didn't have, asphalt roads and all that other stuff. But it was still pretty. It was nicer than some of the places I went to after that. But basically from there, that's where 2-9 would go. So basically we would fly from Camp Leatherneck. When we would fly in helos, and you could tell a lot of these people were wanting fucking helicopters before, because from that point on, you were basically like you had all your shit with you. I'm talking, you got the kit on your back, you You got the big ass fucking rolling luggage. You got everything. You got your fucking gun. You got your Kevlar. It's real life shit at that point. And you get in the helicopter, and I'll never forget this until the day that I'm dead. So my first introduction to Afghanistan was we're going to this camp. God, I wish I could remember the fucking name. It might be Camp Hansen, maybe. No, that doesn't sound right. So we're basically going there, and it's at nighttime. You know, the door gunners on fucking 50 cals got the refugees on, looking real fucking cinematic and shit like that. And basically, we're in this open area, and you can see the mountains in the background, you know, like the Hindu Kush mountains and stuff like that. You can see them all in the background. And this dude's looking out his fucking door, like going crazy, trying to find something. And we don't know what's going on. You know, I mean, they know what's going on, but we don't. And basically from there, the helo drops in the middle of nowhere, like it's like just a barren desert. And he drops the fucking back into the tailgate or the flight deck. And off in the distance, you see like a little fucking Pec 15 and a laser and shit. And you see one person running. And he's fucking tiny as shit. He's running maybe half a mile. This motherfucker's going. Then he runs and he runs and he runs and he runs. About 5 minutes later, he finally gets up to the bird, gets in, sits on the back seat. Motherfucker's got a full beard. He's got 2 bear saws on his back, which bear saws are basically like saws, but they're the more compact version of it. He's got a fucking M4 across his chest, and he's got a pistol just coming out of nowhere. And he gets on the back of the bird. We pick up, finish off to where we need to get dropped off. We get dropped off, we pull all of our shit off, and it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, and everybody's fucking tired. And you're like, what the fuck is going on? And we never saw that dude again, ever again. He was probably some fucking Navy SEAL doing some operation. He was probably doing like, he was some observation patrols or some shit like that. He was just looking at stuff and everything. So then basically we get to this camp. And fuck, I wish I could remember that. I think it's Camp Hansen. Maybe. I don't fucking know. So basically from there, so we're basically broken up from there is basically you have your company there. And basically the company we were with, the company we were going to be attached with, that's where we went. And the whole platoon of engineers is there, you know. And from there, basically, you know, the gunny and the lieutenant, they go meet everybody up front, all the other officers, the higher up officers. And we're just in our tents, you know, and we're just doing studying or whatever the fuck, just fucking off. I think most of the time we're just fucking off, going to the gym, whatever it is. And that was the life. Yeah, I mean, you think, fuck, Afghanistan ain't that bad, man. After like 1 week of doing that, you're like, this shit ain't that bad. You know what I mean? Nothing's that bad. You're like, no one's dying. We're not getting shot at. We can take a shower. You can drink water. You're having lunch. You're doing all. I'm like, this isn't that bad. You know, you got tents and you got cots. All right, Afghanistan ain't that bad. It's not that bad. All right. So then, based from there, so that's the life we were living for 2 weeks. And you know, you get to know everybody, man, and you get to bond with everybody. You bond a little more with certain people and stuff like that. It all depends, but you're all there for the same fucking reason. You know, you're all Lance Corporals, PFCs, just trying to make it through and get back after 7 months and get back to your normal life. So then from there, we basically, they always try and let you acclimatize to things. They always try to make you like, hey, like, we want to make sure you don't fucking pass out from the heat. And it's like being on the fucking moon. You know, the dust, if you throw something on the ground in this area, it's so dusty that as soon as you do that, one cloud will go up fucking 100 feet, and it would just cake everything. So anybody walking, vehicles driving, whatever it is, it would just create this dust that was just, you look like a fucking Cheez-It after you're done. And you got used to it. Like once you're, like in the first part, everybody's always like, I'm going to stay clean. You know, and that lasts for maybe fucking 3 days. Because after that, we were playing fucking football. We were doing all this cool stuff and everything like that. And we think, like, this is the best life. You know, we're making money. We're doing all this stuff and everything. And then from there, we get orders. And basically from there is, I think the first thing we did, and this is the first time we get to go with our units and stuff like that. I think the first actual op we had was we had to go blow up these bridges. And you know, I got pictures of all this stuff, and I'll try and link some of this in this video and stuff, just so you guys can see it. But we basically would take, or just like explosion videos of shit we were doing and stuff. I don't know how to do that shit too much, so I'm not the smartest fucking guy. My brain's a little messed up, but I'll try and put some stuff in there, whether it be in like the middle or the end or whatever it is. What our first mission was to blow up these bridges, and they had these fucking drawings. We're engineers. We're like, fuck, we know how to blow up bridges. This is like our bread and butter. This is what they brought us here for, to blow up bridges. Basically, we were gonna blow up these bridges, and around Fox 14, which is where our company was stationed at. That's their area of operation. Then basically we were gonna stop these fucking bad guys from bringing guns, ammo, explosives, yada yada yada, whatever the bad shit, across this canal. So no one has any intel of what this bridge looks like. So of course, leadership, as it must, they draw the most insane bridge you have ever seen. I'm talking, this motherfucker looks like the Golden Gate Bridge. And we got shape charges, we got fucking all these kind of charges. We're doing all this shit. We're getting into it. We're making fucking explosives. We got TNT. We got dynamite, C4, shape charges, everything. We're about to fucking fuck this shit up, and at least that's what we're thinking. So we get all this stuff. We get out to, I forget it was what an OP it was or whatever the PB was called. And we get there. We're getting all this stuff prepped. I think it was only like a squad of us that went, because we were going with a squad of engineers, and they just picked. The squad leaders picked, the platoon sergeants picked, and I was one of them. We go there, and you're like, hey, you guys are gonna go out on the patrol. This is the squad you're going with. Who's gonna be with, and everything, who the squad leader was, who the team leaders were for the infantry side of everything. We're like, all right, cool. I'm like, these dudes are cool. We've already met them. Like, everybody's still a little weary, you know what I mean? Because these guys have already spent the last at least a year, like, trained together. So they're already a tight-knit crew. You attach 6 or 7 engineers to that, and you just fuck up their vibe. You know what I mean? Like, that's normal. I understand that. Until you gain their trust and their respect, that's the way it's going to be. So, basically, from there, we meet everything. Everybody goes over the whole shindig and what's going on and stuff like that, and what's going to happen. So, basically, we have these 2 bridges that we're going to go to, and we're going to blow them up to not allow the enemy to move their shit across, or the Taliban to move their shit across. So, I mean, the only bad part about it is being the lowest part on the totem pole. So I was a PFC, about to be a Lance Corporal, and that's pretty low to be on deployment. And you definitely feel it. You want to know why? Because everybody else is carrying like C4 and dynamite, the cool shit you see in the movies. Me at the time, I think I'm 130 pounds soaking wet, so I'm pretty big, and we go there, and I get the short end of the stick of carrying like 3 or 4 fucking shape charges in our like ILB packs and everything like that, and I'm like, how the fuck did I end up with that? Like, I would have just stayed back if I knew this was I was gonna be, but of course, you're just trying to, impress, do what you gotta do, chase them ribbons, So basically, from there, we have to walk. I forget how far it is. Maybe it was half a mile. Maybe it was a mile. I don't know. Everything's in clicks or kilometers, whatever the fuck you want to call it. And it felt like forever. It felt like we were walking for my entire life, because by the end of it, by the time we got to the bridges, I was like, I would rather get shot right now, because that seems like an easier out than carrying these fucking bombs. And on the way there, we're passing villages, little houses and stuff, and there's fucking these big ass, I'm talking massive fucking dogs. You think of like Balto, what the fuck are them big ass ones? That they look like goddamn wolves slash bears. Like, these things are massive. They're at least 150, 160 pounds. They're massive fucking dogs. And they come out of nowhere and shit. And you can't shoot them because it's the people's dogs, whatever. Well, the motherfuckers, they caught the buttstock of an M4 a few times. Because they would just jump out of nowhere and just start barking at it. They would never bite you, but they would just jump out. Fucking be face to face with you and scare the shit out of you. So you hit the motherfucker with a buttstock, or you shoot him with a pin flare, and that would just be the end of it. So we leave at the butt crack of dawn. It's, of course, obviously that's how the Marine Corps operates. We leave at like 4 in the morning. We finally get out there, and lo and behold, the bridges are nowhere near what they think they fucking are. So we're thinking elaborate bam, drive a truck over them. Golden Gate bridges, these nice. It's literally two fucking logs going across a canal that people were scooting over on their ass to get there. So what do? We grab the logs, we pick them up, and we drop them in the river. And then they float down and float away. Whew. Mission success. But obviously, us being of sound mind and smart, I'm not walking back with these explosives. So we say it's the most elaborate bridge we have ever seen. I don't think we've brought enough charges for this bridge. So we end up setting up all these charges, basically just all these charges just to blow for no reason. I mean, I guess not for no reason. We were trying to, where they were crossing, we tried to get rid of all the sand that was on the side. So maybe if they couldn't find long enough sticks, they wouldn't be able to work or whatever it is. And Fox 14 was a bad area. That area is bad. We would come to find out later on that fucking area was bad. Now, at the moment, it wasn't bad because everybody's trying to figure out who you are. The Afghans and everybody that was there, A&A, regardless who it is, everybody's trying to figure out who you are and see what you do, how your tactics are, how do you set explosives, how do you patrol, all these. They're trying to feel you out the same way we're trying to feel everybody else out. So we're basically like, hey, we're going to destroy like the side of the sand and then we'll blow it all up. So, and there was like a little stanchion in the middle, but it wasn't like a fucking bridge. It was like a little cobblestone stanchion in the middle of the canal that where they would put the logs over. So we're like, basically, we're going to drop all these charges on this motherfucker. And we're going to try and queue it up so the other guys on their bridge, which is the exact same style of bridge. So basically all the explosives we want to go off within reason, within 5 seconds. And the good thing about engineers is we're always about the times on our explosives. We want to be within 1 to 2 seconds plus or minus when we count down time fuses. And there's always this running joke to where whatever, if you're over or you're under so many seconds, that's how much beer you owe to the person that said that you timed the time fuse and everything like that. So it was always pretty funny. But we had an idea. I was like, man, dude, I've never thrown an actual grenade in, Afghanistan. So I'm like, I wonder if we can time this grenade and we can throw it in the water at the same time as the explosion that we got, because we're smart guys. We know when this bitch is going to blow up. It didn't work out like that. So we blow up the fucking little pieces of the bridge and we throw the grenade. We're like, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. And then the explosion happens with all the explosives we have. And then like 3 seconds later, the grenade blows up. And then everybody's freaking out because they think somebody else got blown up or something else happened. But lo and behold, we didn't say shit. We were like, no, man, we didn't hear that or anything like that. So basically that was the first mission that we go on. And then, goddamn, Twig, that's his name. So Lance Corporal Twig. The baddest, I'm talking, the baddest motherfucker I've ever met. Maybe 6'4", something like that. Big fucking just corn-fed motherfucker. And basically, this dude was the coolest guy in the world. I don't give a fuck how many times he got NJP or how much of a smart-ass mouth he had. This guy, if you wanted a leader, this motherfucker was it. And he was just a team leader, I think, at the time. And we get done with all the shit. We're wrapping everything up. Everybody's just shooting the shit. Nothing's happening. And basically, we're walking back, and he was like, hey, do you guys want to go the easy route, or do you guys want to get shot at? We're like, fuck, we've been here for 2 weeks. We might as well just start getting shot at. And he was like, all right. So he took us down this fucking different kind of rat trail where he knew the fucking bad people were and shit like that. And we start getting fucking pop shots and all this shit. Everybody's fucking going crazy and stuff. But it was a lot more pop shots than what they had normally gotten. It was a little bigger of force and stuff like that. So we hold up in this fucking building and everything like that. We're trying to figure out where it's coming from and stuff. And it's hot as fuck. It's hot as balls. I didn't even shoot my gun. Like, didn't fucking none. Because you couldn't see anything. Anybody. It was just fucking like pop shots in the air or whatever it was. But basically, that was the first time I ever got shot at. Like, it's one thing, when you shoot a gun, you're on a range, or you're shooting in your backyard, or shooting at a range at, like, down the road. You can hear bullets going that way. Bam, 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 bam. And that's cool. That's fun. The difference in that is when you hear the bullets coming the other way. When you hear the exit and the round coming towards you. That's a sound you'll never forget. It's a sound you shouldn't hear. Because that's not normal. Like all your life growing up, you shoot guns, you shoot rounds away from you. But it was different to hear those shots coming towards you. So it was just something very to get used to. And there's certain guns you'll never forget the sound of. Like the sound of an RPK, the way that motherfucker sounds, 7.62, big fucking gun. Never forget. Never forget the sound, that the impact of that round that it makes. We'll never forget that sound until I'm dead. So basically from there, then we basically go from there. And that was our cool, oh my god, like, yeah, we had fun. Like, that was fun. Like, that was a good little dip your toes in the water type stuff. But from there, we go back to the FOB that we were at, which is forward operating base, if you wanted to know. We would basically go to the forward operating base, which is where we are, where all our stuff is and everything like that. And then after that, we've built everything we could. We built up showers for everybody who's there, who likes to take showers. We built up these porta-john stalls where everybody can take shits and piss and all this stuff. We've done all these things. So we've basically done what we've had to do at this place. So now basically we have 3 squads of engineers. 4th squad is always like heavy equipment, electricians, just all your other stuff. And basically they'll always stay in the rear because they're there for support. Because they have people that are there like at this FOB that are the same as them. So they can help and they can utilize them and stuff like that. But as far as the engineers, you have first squad, 2nd squad, and 3rd squad. And they will each go Echo, Fox, and Golf, was who 2-9 had. But before we can do that, we have to build what are called Typhoons. And Typhoon is just a fancy word for a patrol base. And you had Typhoon 3, 4, and 5. And they were basically triangulated to where one platoon could basically rotate their guys. Like every couple weeks, they would rotate and they'd go to another Typhoon. Typhoon 3, 4, and 5. Typhoon 3 and 5 were built by us, not engineers who build shit. And Typhoon 4 was built by ESB, which is Engineers Support Battalion. They have heavy equipment, they have loaders, they have all this other equipment that will make them more efficient and look better. So basically, we build Typhoon 3 the same time they're building Typhoon 4. And Typhoon 3 looks like a shithole. The HESCO, which HESCO, I don't know if you know what HESCO is. HESCO is this big ass piece of wire that you stretch out, and then you fill it with sand, and you put smaller ones up, and it steps, and you put sea wire all over it, and you put an entrance, and it was supposed to be like whoever invented HESCO is a fucking billionaire, because everyone used it. So basically, we use HESCO, and we would build all these things. And in one of my previous podcasts, Typhoon 3 was where Sergeant Bouvier and Now got shot. So Sergeant Bouvier took 2 rounds to the back of the head, and Now took 1 round to the ass. And I'm talking, like as I'm sitting here, Sergeant Bouvier's here, and Now's right there. We're pulling up the wall. As soon as we pull up the wall, because we're building some stupid little fucking thing outside that didn't need to get redone, because, some fucking officer was like, hey, this thing needs to be redone. So we redid it. So we redo the whole thing and everything like that. And that's when Sergeant Bouvier got shot in the head. That's when Now got shot in the ass. That's when everybody who was there, tried to do their best for what we had. But that was our first. So this is where shit sets in real. This is where it gets real. You go from landing there at Camp Hansen, and you're feeling everything out, and then you go on your little first mission to go blow up these bridges, and you realize they're not bridges, and you have fun, and that's great. You're thinking, I think one person got killed in 2-9 up to this point. I think Sergeant Bouvier was the second person to get killed. I think the first one was some dude in another company who got killed like the week before, something like that. And what they always told you is people die in the first month and the last month. And the reason why is because in the first month, you don't know what you're doing, and you don't know the area, you don't know where everything is. And in the last month is because you're complacent, and you're ready to go home. You see the light at the end of the tunnel, and you think you've made it. So that's when most people die, which is spot on, 100%. Because 40% was up front, where most people died. The other 40% was in the back. Then we had maybe 20% in the middle. Man, it was every now and then in the middle. Just probably doing shit you shouldn't be doing. But from there, so basically from there, so we're building the Typhoons. So we go from the little bridge thing to this, where shit sets in real quick. That this ain't no fucking video game. That this ain't fun anymore. That no matter what you do, or any time zone, or where you're at, you're gonna get fucked up. That was the realization for me to be like, I'm gonna do my job, and I'm gonna do it to the best of my ability, but I'm not gonna overdo anything. Because one wise sergeant once told me, if you go chasing ribbons to make a name for yourself, you're not gonna die, but the people around you will die. And that's the worst feeling you can live with. And that was Sergeant White who told me that. Is you never go over, if you want ribbons and you do what you're supposed to do, and you do the things you want to do, and you do them correctly, and you do them for everyone around you, the ribbons will come. And they did. Are they ribbons that I want? Fuck no. Not one of them that I want. But if you're not chasing ribbons, people around you won't die because you're not trying to make a name for yourself. And I always remember that. And I was like, no, this is not, I don't care. So basically that was the realization point right there, where we were like, nah, fuck this. Like, this is not worth it. And then towards the end of that deployment, it really fucking set in. Because then you started getting wind of, hey, we're not even going to keep this shit. Hey, we're giving it all right back. And then that's what just pissed and set everybody off at that point. But we'll skip to, we won't get to that till the end. So that was the realization right there. And then from there, the Marine Corps goes on. It's always about, like, you always have a time to dwell and to grieve on the people that you've lost up to that point. There'll always be a point in time in that. That point in time was not right now. So basically, we still had to go. So after these motherfuckers both just got shot, Nell was alive. He was going back to get surgery. But after you find out Sergeant Bouvier is dead, not even 2-3 hours later, I think at most, we go right back out there. We're putting fucking sand on the blood. We're trying to cover it up as best as we can. And we have to go up there and finish it. Because the Marine Corps is very big on, we get it. People die. That's kind of the way it is. It's shitty. It sucks. You'll have a time to grieve about that. But right now, everybody's got a job to do. And our job to do at that point was to get these Typhoons done. So we got that Typhoon done. It looked like shit. It was completely ass. And then from there, we go to build the other Typhoon. And we see Typhoon 4. And it looks like the fucking Taj Mahal. Like, the rows are straight. Everything is good. Like, it looks like, Jesus Christ, Caesar's Palace. Ours looked like a fucking Motel 6 on the side of the road, and we knew it. And we were like, well, that's not what we're here for. We're not here to fucking make patrol bases. We didn't come prepared for any of that shit. So you're getting what you're getting. And then we had to go build Typhoon 5 because ESB had to start on the road construction to help better the fucking roads there. And then they needed us to come fucking help them. So we built the other Typhoon, and I got this picture and stuff of when we were there and stuff like that. Sergeant Bowie's mom sent like his big flag that she wanted everybody to sign and stuff like that because, and the weird part of, I guess not the weird part, but the thing about it, so if you get killed in country, if any American gets killed in country, they shut the communication down immediately. All lines go dead because they don't want somebody getting word back to a family member until the Marine Corps has had their way. Their chance to be like, hey, this happened, we're sorry. But so everything is always shut down. So that shit, from there on, you were lucky to even get like a couple days without fucking that shit being down. So, and then you're always waiting like a month later when you tell somebody. Like I told Angel, like when he died, it was probably a month after that. Like it was a while. It definitely wasn't like next day or anything like that. And then, and the shitty part of that, your family members back home, they don't know. They just think you're over there. And, and I mean, I told Angel that stuff. And I mean, and this is probably the first time she'll ever hear this, but I always told her that everything was great because I didn't want to worry her about stuff, which is, I think, I mean, that's pretty normal. Like you don't want to worry them every fucking day. But I mean, you try and tell them the truth because either way they're gonna find out about some things. But for the majority of us, like, no, I'm good. I'm just sitting here chilling and stuff like that, not knowing that we're just fuck getting shot at left and right. And then even the bad part of this deployment, like getting shot at was the funnest part of that deployment. Why? Because at least you had an idea of who was doing it and where they were. Singing, that shit was just bombs, and you were just getting fucked up left and right. And it could have been Joe Schmo from 3 months ago who left that shit. So, I mean, yeah, and that was only up to that point. We're maybe 2 months in. You still got 5 more months of this bullshit, and you're like, fuck, man, what did I get into? And you question everything you do, every action you do, everything you do. About month 2 is when everybody starts. Those next couple months are when everybody is so irritable, and you think, you got to deal with these guys every day. You got to go on patrols with these guys every day. You guys are getting shot at together. You're calling Kazovacs. You're helping like, that's just like anybody else. You're gonna fucking fight. You're gonna hate each other and stuff like that. But then towards the end of it, like that last 5 to 7 months, inseparable, dude. Like Ellie and Joel in The Last of Us. Like, bam. Like that kind of shit. And that's true. Like, that's true of I don't give a fuck what branch you're in, whether you're in the Army, the Navy, Marine Corps, fucking Coast Guard, whatever it is. If you were on a combat deployment of any sort, and you were getting shot at, and you were dealing with fucking casualties, people dying, all this kind of stuff, whoever you were with, I don't give a fuck, 15, 20 years later, 30 years later, regardless, those guys will be in tune and brain, whatever, with you for the rest of your life. Like, there's maybe like 4 or 5 of them that I still keep in touch with, that these dudes are like heart and soul. Like, if shit popped off, they're the first motherfuckers I'm contacting because we know how all of us act and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, that's 2 months in. So, in a deep detail of what a combat deployment is to Afghanistan, and that's only 2 months. That doesn't even get to you. That's not even. I mean, we went on fucking raids. We did, and I will remember where I'm at now, month 2 after the typhoons, and then the next time we talk about this, we'll come back to it, and I can tell you, basically from 3 months to 5 months, what that was like, and then we can just so on and so forth, so you can see what an actual full length deployment. And I left so much shit out of there. You know what I mean? You could literally talk for hours about this shit. But, I mean, after the fact, me being 33 now, and being 20, about to be 21 at that point, you look back at those things, and a lot of them were, you're like, man, I don't know how the fuck we did that. And to this day, I couldn't tell you. You told a lot of people to go fuck themselves. And that's probably why I have my attitude so much today. Because it's a different animal there. And once you see that side of people, whether it be leadership or bad guys, Taliban, whatever you want to call them, once you see the amount of hatred and the amount of don't give a fuck, you start to look at people a little differently and stuff like that. And it makes you hard to be like, yeah, no, I trust this guy, or yeah, no, this is cool. No, because I've been in the worst positions in the world, and I've seen the worst in people, and I've also seen the best in people come out and thrive. But because when you see the worst in people, it's really hard to take that switch and turn it off. And I mean, I'm 33, and that shit still don't fly with me. Like, if you're like that, I'll fucking cut you out quick and dry. And that's pretty normal. I mean, I guess it's not normal, I tell people that, or I tell my wife that, and she's like, that's not supposed to be like that. I'm like, well, fuck, it was normal for me. So, and all of this is just a conversation, It's just, I like talking about these things, because then it makes, like, the memories there, you know what I mean? It's like, it's not, when you get to be 50 or 60 or whatever it is, you're like, fuck, man, I don't remember that shit. Well, now, the motherfucker's right here. And now I can come back and watch it and see how dumb I sounded in some of the shit. But it'll help you remember those things, for sure. It definitely will. And I just like talking about it. I mean, I know it's not, the cryptid side, which I mean, the Bigfoot stuff is always, you know, or the alien stuff or abductions and all this stuff. That's always cool and fun. But this is like, I like that, and I'm passionate about that. But this is the true, like true, like me. So yeah, I just figured I'd let you guys know that. So that's what the beginning of a first combat deployment for me was. I know there's a couple of you guys in here who are veterans as well. I mean, feel free, share the story. And if any of you guys want to be on this or talk about certain things or go over it, just comment to me, send me a message, whatever it is, and then we can hook it up because I can call you off my phone and we can hook it up on here and everybody can hear you and stuff like that. It won't be live, but we can pre-record all this stuff, make it sound all nice and juicy. Um, so yeah, just let me know. What do you guys think about this one? And if you guys want to hear more of this. So other than that, appreciate you guys stopping by, and we will get back on schedule, and we will be back next week with another episode. Catch you guys later.